Are we on?
Yes, we're live.
Hello, everybody. Hi, and welcome to And It's Writing, a live stream and podcast where two writers have a few drinks and some laughs while we revise our old work. I'm DC McNaughton, and I'm a speculative fiction writer, soon to be historical fiction writer. And right now, I finally finished The Goldfinch by Donna
Yay!
Tartt. Yay! It took so long. I hated the ending.
No!
It was very preachy, but it was a good book. Um, and I'm gonna read her other stuff. But now I've moved on, and I'm gonna read Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt because it is in first present, or at least some of it is. I haven't decided how much yet. And so is my current speculative fiction novel I'm working on. So it should be fun to read somebody who actually knows what they're doing with first present.
And I'm Avery Ames, and I write adult fantasy. What I'm working on is I finished revisions on one of the two projects I'm revising, which is the sequel to my self-published novel, Cambiare. It is currently with some critique partners to kind of get their thoughts and see what they're thinking. Which means I am fully now in revisions in the novel that my agent sent me some very good notes on, that are a lot of revision. And I'm staring down the barrel of a possible rewrite. I'm still making some decisions in that department. So that's where I'm at. What I'm reading is I'm still finishing Land of the Beautiful Dead, but by Arlie Smith. I'm in the like super feels section now, which is towards the end. But it is a chonky book, so it's taken me a minute. But I have I have also started looking down, like I said, at these new revisions. I have started rereading Story Genius by Lisa Caron, which is actually a very good book if you are plotting a novel, planning a novel, or revising a novel. The full title is actually Story Genius: How to Use Brain Science to Go Beyond Outlining and Write a Riveting Novel, asterisk, before you waste 3 years writing 327 pages that go nowhere. So
Yay!
yeah.
I've done that before.
Yes. It's very good about digging into character motivations, what the theme of your story is, and there's actually a section on evaluating your scenes using these scene cards, and I forgot to bring one into this room. But they're like, you kind of fill out like what the point of the scene is, and during revising it helps me a lot to realize if I even need a scene or if I can combine scenes. So it's one of my favorite craft books. It has a lot of really good advice.
Ooh, nice, spicy. Good. Okay. And this is our usual reminder that writing is not all about rules. When we are writing, we sometimes need to break them as well, a lot. We're both firm believers that if the rules feel too suffocating and overwhelming, just ignore them and write and stop complaining about everything, Darren.
We've all done it. We do it every draft, every revision.
I'm doing it a lot right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it a whole hell of a lot. Everything is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been one of those days. Anyway.
We all have those days. It's okay. It will get better. So, okay, today we're going to do the drink pairing. And since the today's topic is passive voice, and since passive voice can often weaken your writing and leave it kind of wimpy, I was trying to think of what like a nice weak wimpy drink is that I would still want to drink. So today we are drinking hard seltzer, which I still love. I know it's much maligned, but I love it. And I haven't opened it yet, so we're going to make a nice loud like noise here in a second. If I can get it. There we go.
Yeah, crack it
That
open.
noise.
Yeah, drink that.
Yeah. So that's our fancy drink pairing for this episode, but I thought it was fitting for wuzzing the wuzzes.
Yeah, I drank that. All right. And I have done my own seltzer, and I have removed the alcohol. First because I'm just having a bad day, and I do not drink on bad days. That is a rule. But second, because we're going to be talking a lot about removing wases today, and imagine the booze as it was, and I have taken it out, and now I'm sipping fresh seltzer that is just flavored with no liquor, no wases here,
Yes, no wuzzes. No,
no
no
wases
boozy,
here.
boozy wuzzes. I'm just gonna
Nope.
sit here and drink all the wuzzes on your behalf.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Also, I prepped for this podcast a little early, and this has been. It's not warm yet, but it's not super cold. And seltzer's enjoyment value very much decreases with every like degree of temperature that it increases. But we're just gonna go with it.
That's
So
what you get for ignoring the ice thing. We're in America. You can use that if you want.
I
That's your
could, but then
right
I would have
as
had
an
to
adult.
open it, and then it would have gone flat. So
That's
it's one
fair. Yeah,
half dozen of one, six of the
it's
other.
fine.
Um, Wuzzing the Wuzzes came up in a writers group chat that both DC and I are a part of. All of us in the group chat were revising at the same time. Several of us were using Autocrit, and Autocrit is a service that kind of flags potential problems in your writing, and then you kind of got to go through and edit. And it does not like the word was.
I love autocrit.
It's good. It
It's
does
so good.
it does good things, but you do have to like analyze. You can't just automatically do
Yes.
everything it says to do.
Yeah, no.
You have to it's a flag to go take a look at this and make a decision. And but it really hates the word was, and it will tell you how many wases you have and be like, this is bad, and you have to go through and then check your was count. So we came up with the phrase "wasing the wases" to indicate that we were removing. Now we get to talk
Wuzzes.
about passive voice and our thoughts on it. What are your
Oh, great.
thoughts?
My thoughts on it are it has a place and it doesn't. And most of the time it doesn't have a place. Um, and just a point, since I am actually working on a present tense, the present tense version of was is is. So if you're
Yeah.
writing a present tense,
Then
watch for
you're
is.
wasing the ises.
Yeah, you're yeah, all kinds of izzies. And
I should have gotten the Izzy like seltzer and mixed it with something.
yeah, that's funny. We fucked up. Okay, well, but yeah, my thoughts on it are, I think wases they are obviously sometimes necessary because they ground us really fast, and it was a dark and stormy night. You can't write that without was, okay, and that it gives you it's a sentence that puts you immediately in a time and place, and that sometimes it's okay. I had a was in my first sentence on both the books I just finished, and I liked them both and I couldn't figure out how to avoid them no matter what. But there are other times that it's really like and we're going to see them later, that it's just really unnecessary and it makes your writing not pretty. And there are other forms of passive voice,
Mm-hmm.
such as of. Like, I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm really bad with of. I like uh, all of the pretty roses. No, I can't remember what is the best way, like a box of candy, right?
Oh yeah.
That's some other like passive voice that can also get in the way. But we can talk about ofs a different day.
There may be
But
some
yeah,
ofs. I wasn't keeping an eye out for those in my samples, so there may or may not be some. We'll
I
find out.
recently helped somebody remove like 500 words because they needed to get just under a certain word count, and I said, have you looked for the ofs? And they found them, and they were able to actually cut enough to get under the word count. So there's all kinds of different,
Mhm.
faux pas. How do you feel about passive voice?
Well, first I was going to share a little trick or definition that's actually a pretty common thing in writing. I finally found the origin of this description, which is Rebecca Johnson tweeted, I finally learned how to teach my guys to ID the passive voice. If you can insert by zombies after the verb, you have passive voice. Um, which is actually a really interesting description. And it's not the only passive voice, but it is a passive voice. So
Can you
That's
use that an example for me?
well, if you say like the
I
door,
want
if you say like the door was slammed shut, well, you can say the
by
door was slammed shut
zombies.
by zombies. So therefore, it's
Oh,
passive voice. In a
very
lot of
good.
my examples, I actually have a by. So I actually look for the word was and the word by. Like I actually look for, and when you're searching in Word, you can put like the spaces around it so it doesn't look up like goodbye. You can put like space by space, and then it will find that whole little section. So I will do that and I will look for the word by because it's like if the blank was blank by blank, then it is very definitely passive voice.
Wow, yeah, no, I've never heard that one. That's a good one. I like that. I like it.
So that's part of it. That's actually probably where I have the most egregious examples, which you will see in the sample. um, and also like the passive voice in the description, because it doesn't have to be a person was or the thing was being done by the person. It can also be like an object. So it can be like, well, I don't want to ruin the sample, but I think it opens with something like the room was lit by the sunlight or something like that. So,
Ah,
yeah, it
oh,
doesn't
it's
have to be a
very
person
different.
doing a thing. It can be a thing doing a thing. Uh, but that's actually one I actually don't really I never really thought about the ofs. So now I'm like, do I do that? Do
Hmm.
I not? I don't
Oh,
know if I
everybody
did.
does it. Everybody totally does it.
I'm gonna have to go look for some ofs.
Ah, yes, everybody does it. It's true. It's true.
But general thoughts on passive voice is kind of the same as yours, as which is hot take, it's not always bad. You don't have to take out every single instance of passive voice. Sometimes it's good. One of the ways I use it a lot is my self-published book, Cambiare, is about fairies, and it's very traditional fae, so they cannot lie. So one of the ways they get around lying is using a lot of passive voice. Is like, the door was closed, but they don't really say I closed the door. Um, so it's like a lot of things where like you can kind of use passive voice to kind of skirt around saying what really
Yep.
happened, and sometimes that can really help. One of my rules about writing is that in dialogue all bets are off.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I do the same thing. I let my dialogue break rules all the time because that's how people talk.
Mm-hmm.
On the subject though, also wuzzes are a great way to fix your pentameter. A lot of, if you read your work out loud, a lot of times you'll feel like something will feel like stunted or it's not like normal or something just doesn't feel right about the way it rolls off your tongue. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if the English language is like people like fives or sevens. But there's a certain amount of
Mm-hmm.
consonants that is actually comfortable to say.
Five.
So is it five?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it was can actually fix your pentameter
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and sometimes that matters,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're hoping to have an audiobook someday, or it just feels better to read. So sometimes
Yeah,
it was feels really good, like
I think both
it
of us have
happens.
mentioned that we're both very we like sometimes things because of the cadence of them and the way they
Hmm.
sound, in like, and for me it's in my head if I'm reading, written words, but I listen to the cadence of I actually was listening to a podcast about music and they were talking about how there were some pop hits that were finessed mathematically using pentameter, and one is the crap, what song is it? It's the Taylor Swift song where she's like, my friends talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me. And it's very
Yeah.
like the rhythm of it is the cadence of the words. And so I was like, yeah, I do like some songs really are very satisfying to sing like that. And it's the same way with writing is some phrases have this like rise and fall and rise and fall. And so sometimes you need that was in there to make it just sound pretty.
Be like Taylor Swift. Use
Be
your
Taylor
wuzzes
Swift.
wisely. I don't know. I don't know anything about Taylor Swift. I listen to goth metal.
I listen to everything.
Bet you could never guess by looking at me.
Okay. Anyways, we blabbed about was a lot. So, and I'm kind of looking at our time. So we should probably move into the cringe.
The
Um,
cringe.
So we're going to pull up my screen and we're going to have you read it out loud as usual. Since I wrote it, you get to
Yes.
read it. And then for those who are just joining us for this episode, we will revise it. Before I go into this, I'm going to give you just a very brief kind of where we are in the story because this is a snippet from like later in the story. And for those of you who have been with us since episode 1 or have listened to episode 1, we are following up on our friend who fell out the window chased
The
by a
one that can
ghoul.
smell pizza?
No, that's episode
Oh.
2. This is the one who was being like clutched by the ghoul's delicious
Oh.
slash deadly short claws.
Right. The short
The
claw
short
man.
claws.
Right.
This
So wait,
is
is it a man or a woman or an other?
the main character in this one is a woman.
Oh.
So she has been scratched by the ghoul's claws, and this is her waking up the next day, after like escaping the ghoul. So we will move into
Yeah.
the editing screen.
Yes. All right. Here we go. I'm gonna read this. There's gonna be so many was's. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. Okay. Here we go. I cracked open an eye to see that the room was now lit by the rising sun. I rolled over and got out of bed stiffly. Oh. My leg was my leg was racked with heat, which worried me. I lifted a hand to brush the earring I wore. A simple silver hoop was graced with 3 beads in blue, white, and gold. It was worn by all the members of the order, and it provided immunity from the toxins carried by the walking dead and other unholy creatures. Unfortunately, it was no good against plain old infection. After the salve, though, hopefully the wound would be healed soon enough. There is a lot of passive
There's
voice
a
in here, and
lot
it
of
is
passive
not
voice in here.
it is not all was's.
It's not all was's, but yeah, there's a lot of passive. There's a couple of adverb problems carrying back through. This is the same draft that had the adverb problems, so that's not really a surprise.
Yeah. Oh wow. I gotta say I'm nervous about this one because like I haven't worked with was's for so long. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Woo wee. This is okay. Like one sentence at a time.
Yeah,
I
we'll just
presume.
one step at a time.
Yeah.
The
So
same
our
way you
first sentence.
usually revise, just
Yeah, exactly. You gotta revise one sentence at a time. Okay, so the first sentence is I cracked open an eye to see that the room was now lit by the rising sun.
and this is like
Well,
a
Avery,
combo problem because this
I
is filtering and passive voice all in
have
one.
epic problems with this.
It's like a gross version of Reese's. Like you got passive voice in my filtering. You got filtering in my passive voice.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and not to mention the word now is in there. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen and other people like me who are not one or the other, you don't need the word now in your books hardly ever. Don't do it.
The only time I use it is if there's like kind of a sort of flashback and you're coming back to the present.
Absolutely.
That's really the only time.
Absolutely. I agree. Okay, so I have a few things to say. Just in general about craft. I cracked open an eye to see. There is, and I don't know if C is technically considered passive voice. I think it's showing, not telling. It's filtering. Okay, like you don't, especially if you're talking about opening an eye, you don't need to ever use the word to see from the point of view of a character, your protagonist, whoever you're writing from the perspective of, because if they describe it, they see it, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be there. So we can definitely get rid of that. We can get rid of the now, and we can get rid of the was. For sure we can.
This one is gonna be fun to edit because it is rough. Yeah, I think starting a new paragraph is the best way to go.
I'm not even gonna like try to edit on top of it. I'm just like gonna the rewrite.
Yeah, this is one of those things where we're gonna have to like rewrite the whole thing basically. Because it's just, if we're going in and nitpicking, and this is something that happens, this is actually why I'm considering a rewrite, is that if you go in and start nitpicking and nitpicking and nitpicking, eventually it starts to feel really tortured. Whereas if you rewrite, you're just like, okay, I know the essence of what I want to say, and you just say it cleaner the first time, second time.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. So the first problem that I'm running into is and this is a story issue because I don't know the story, that I cracked open an eye to see that the room was now lit. What room is she in? Because I
Um,
think that
she's in like an inn in this. She's like part of essentially like an undead extermination squad. That's what the order is, but it's also a religious
okay.
group. So they're like summoned to towns to like take care of zombie problems. And so she's at an inn in the town where she is visiting.
Okay. See, because my initial feeling with this is to I cracked open an eye to my uh room, comma, maybe glowing with light, with the light of the rising sun. But that's an of, see? So let's talk about that. Light of the rising sun. So we have created more passive voice here. Um, but this is a good structure, I think. It's just it needs work, right? And sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
do that. Sometimes you edit a sentence and then you rebuild it and it still needs work because it's still passive voice. I cracked open a night in my room, glowing with the light of the rising sun. Of the rising sun that's a couple words you might not need. So is there a way, Avery, that we could fix this?
We could even just say glowing with dawn sunlight or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It could almost even be like a crack. Well, no, never mind. Cracked up at the night in my room.
Mm. Cracked an open glowing with the dawn.
Oh, I was
I
just
don't
gonna
like
say
glowing with the dawn
not
sun.
the like glowing with dawn sunlight. Like dawn is the adjective describing sunlight. So there's no the.
Ah, glowing with dawn sunlight. Okay.
Once again,
I
we talk about cadence, and I'm not sure I love the cadence of this.
yeah, and this is funny because it's like bringing up a bunch of stuff that we just talked about, like
Yeah.
the cadence and using words like of the to create the that pentameter that just sounds good, and that's where editing gets to be a huge bitch.
This one is it's 100% a I was gonna say it's this we have a comment which says glowing with morning sunlight, and I was going to suggest something similar, which is an open eye in my room lit by the morning sun, which is 100% passive voice, but it has a nice ring to it.
I like them both. I think this is one of those things
Yeah,
where it's the writer's decision. So
we're going to take
Avery,
the
this is
suggestion.
okay. So I cracked my eye. Okay, no, I cracked open an eye to my room, glowing with morning sunlight. I That's better than what it
It is
was.
better.
Like
I'm a, this is
it's
not
not
passive
pretty.
voice, but the I cracked open an eye to my room feels weird.
Yeah, it's
So I
annoying.
cracked open an eye to, well, that's filtering. Ugh.
I cracked open an oh, see, look at even we're bad at
I
this.
was gonna say I
Cracked open
cracked
an
open an
eye.
eye to find my room glowing with morning sunlight, but that's filtering. But maybe I
Oh
cracked
my
open an
god.
eye. Oh, okay. How about I cracked open an eye? Period. My room glowed with morning sunlight.
No, I hate that.
No, where man, this section is rough.
That
This
book.
episode is gonna be a rough one.
This is what I've been doing all fucking month, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I just want
oh,
to
we
like
have a
shake.
really good suggestion from chat because it's
Yes.
bringing in an action, which is I cracked open an eye, wincing at the morning sunlight.
Fuck yes.
Yes,
Fuck yes.
thank you. Thank
Fuck
you,
yes. Hey,
listener
this is
viewer.
that thing that I talked about when you do multiple things with your sentences,
Yeah,
right? Every sentence do two things. Um, and I think this is what was missing.
because it's also giving us character. It's giving us, oh, this character's not a morning person.
Do we want to involve the room? Because you could technically say wincing at the morning light, sunlight streaming through my room, but you don't need
I
that
don't
if
think
the
we need
settings
it
are there.
because the last
Yeah,
scene ended with her
I
the
love it.
thing that you're not supposed to do. It ended with her falling asleep in the room. That's a whole other episode. We'll get into that later.
Right. And you can, there are multiple ways you could do this. Now that I'm, thinking about the prospect of doing multiple things with one sentence, you could also say, I was woken by the morning sun, but that also includes a was. You could do, the sunlight woke me from my slumber or whatever. You can do so many different things
Yeah.
to make what this original sentence was
And you know, this is
to something
completely
better.
just skipping over the problem of starting a chapter with a character waking up, but we're gonna ignore that one for
We
now.
don't.
That is
Yeah,
the
and
we.
that is a myth, people. If you are writing a book where the character wakes up in a room, it's fine. Everything is fine. God, so many people like get so upset that they can't do that, and I'm just like, you know what, just do it. Like, just do it. If an agent doesn't like it, screw that guy. Like,
I
we don't.
I think where it comes from, and I understand this, is that often when you start a book, not a chapter, but a whole book with the character waking up, a lot of times that means there's a lot of filler before something worthwhile happens, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times people make the character go through their morning routine and all the mundane stuff, and occasionally that can work, but a lot of times it's not needed. So that's why I think it's kind of a flag that they see it and they kind of go, I don't know if this is gonna work. But it can also be done, like many things, very effectively, and especially if it's a chapter, it doesn't bother me much. And
So I'm looking at the second sentence and I am like, whoa, wow, okay, because the second sentence here is I rolled over and got out of bed stiffly. We're using, we're using adverbs here. We're using I a second time. When you're writing in first person, and I know that's not what this podcast is about, but the use of I, cutting it out completely is better. So now I'm like, okay, this sentence here is just it's not doing enough. And I actually think, even though I really like our new first sentence, I think we could do another first sentence and make it even better. Such as like the morning sunlight woke me, uh, and I'm just gonna write something really
yeah,
crappy and then we can
we'll
fix
fix
it,
it later.
okay? And I uh carrying me from sleep. Fuck. Oh, fuck. I'm like, I want to get the wincing and the rolling out of the bed done like kind of simultaneously, because these two sentences are kind of not great by themselves, right?
I rolled out of bed
Um
with a wince.
yeah. It's still using I, but sometimes you just gotta do that.
I don't mind it as much when it's not in at the beginning of the sentence or beginning of the paragraph.
Right, and I don't know. I cracked open an eye once to get the morning sunlight. Is there anything going on? Oh, wait. Okay, so the next sentence is my leg was racked with heat, which worried me. Can we actually just merge that sentence with the I rolled over and got out of bed stiffly?
Yeah,
Or because we could say,
we could even say something about the like pain in their leg waking them up. But then we've
right.
got the sun and we got
No, we don't. Yeah, it's like, if this were me editing a book for like my final draft, I would sit and work on
oh
that.
yeah. I would
We
probably throw this whole thing out and just start over, which is kind of what we're doing. But we are
mm-hmm.
trying to kind of
Yeah.
rather like I might just start literally the whole scene over, not keep any of this, but we're trying to like fix this and still keep a little bit of it.
Okay, well, hold on. Hold on. The morning sun broke, tearing me from sleep. I winced and fuck.
I, I winced and
Hey,
fuck.
what?
Just write that in.
Um, yeah, so this is the joy of editing, everybody. I've been removing was's for a really long time, and this shit gets hard. And I think it's important not to hide that, because some people have a lot of trouble with it, and this is why.
Wuses are hard to
Editing,
remove because
they are.
sometimes every once in a while it can be easy. Which I think there's a couple of sentences here where we can just really quickly switch the verb and the verb tense and the object. But sometimes you really got to like work with it.
Okay, so this isn't perfect, but it's better, I think. The morning sun broke, tearing me from sleep. I winced and rolled out of bed, leg racked with heat. Is this heat supposed to be like a reference to pain,
It's a reference to like when you
or
have an infection and it feels hot.
Okay. All right. So, so she's got an infection in her leg.
Yeah, she's worried about like an infection settling in.
So let's say leg's still racked with heat. Um,
Because that's why later it's like, hey, I'm immune to like becoming a zombie, but I might get like a normal infection.
right. Yeah. Why? Okay. So the next sentence. Do you like what I've written here? That this
I
morning, the
do.
morning sun broke.
Preparing me for sleep. I
Okay.
once.
So let's use this
Okay.
one.
Let's read
Um.
it so that people who are listening can
Okay.
kind of follow along.
So the original said, I cracked open an eye to see that the room was now lit by the rising sun. I rolled over and got out of bed stiffly. I have changed it so far into the morning sun broke, tearing me from sleep. I winced and rolled out of bed, legs still racked with heat. I'm just gonna put from the infection just for me,
Yeah.
so that we know what we're dealing with here. Legs still racked with heat from the infection. Now the next sentence from the original is, I lifted a hand to brush the earring I wore. Uh,
This was my cheater way to explain that they wear an earring to protect them from infection. I was
is this like at the beginning of the book?
Yeah, this is like chapter that
Oh,
the early section is in chapter 1, the one we read during the adverbs episode. This is probably the beginning of chapter 2 or like another scene later in chapter 1. So it's pretty early. We're still doing world building.
okay. Well, in that case, I'm not gonna complain about this because we're just removing was's right now. But just for the reader's reference here, don't do the thing that I did once and twice and 1,000 times, where you try to describe something like so intricate as these obviously very important earrings by like throwing them into a paragraph like this where it might not be so important and then go off on a whole tangent about it. Sometimes that can detract from the reading. It's like looking in the mirror and describing somebody's face in a
It's
mirror.
a little info
um
dumpy.
it's a little info dumpy, but we're just getting rid of the was's now.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to kind of like footnote that.
I will also say
Just
I would remove I wore. Just say I
hell
lifted a hand
yeah.
to brush my earring, not the earring I wore. Because
Okay.
we know
It's
that she's wearing it. If she says my earring, we know it's in her ear. Like
I'm gonna tack the worried from the original onto the beginning of this
oh
new
yeah.
sentence, because we got rid of the word worried about the infection, and I think that she should be brushing her ear out of
Yeah.
nervousness, right?
And that's what it is. It's
Um,
like, okay, I've still got it.
okay.
I'm safe. I'm still wearing the
Also,
thing that keeps me from turning into a zombie. Is that's why she's touching it, is to like reassure herself that it's still there and that she's safe.
okay, so actually, then let's do that. Worried and looking for reassurance.
I think it would be
And
reassurance in this case.
reassurance. Worried and looking for reassurance. I reached up to my ear. Wait, I touched my ear. Wait, no, I touched my earring.
Yeah.
Okay. Worried and looking for reassurance. I touched my earring. Good. Still can't become a zombie. I know that this isn't wasn't here, but like that's adding voice,
Yeah.
right? It's adding thought to what she's doing. So I have now changed. I lifted a hand to brush the earring I wore and turned it into worried and looking for reassurance. I touched my earring. Good. It's still there. Still can't become a zombie, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that. And that's just, that might not be the shortest form, but that's what I did now. Avery, you can
Well, I was going to
tell
say
me if you want me to edit that down.
I like that. I was going to say that actually also kind of shortens this next section, which is the part where it's like it provided immunity from the toxins.
Oh,
Because this is just if she's like, okay, it's there, I'm not going to become a zombie, that tells us that the earring is what keeps her from that keeps her immune to these like zombie poisons. So and
good old show don't
I don't
tell.
know if we need to explain that it's 3 beads in blue, white, and gold. But I could put that elsewhere in the story somehow to keep it from info dumping here, because here the important point is not what it looks like. The important point is what it does.
Then, in that case, let's split off from this paragraph and just tackle that description of the earrings, so that like when you do get there, right, when the earrings do come up, we have it all edited out. So so right now the earring description starts with a simple silver hoop was graced with 3 beads in blue, white, and gold. It was worn by all members of the order, and it provided immunity from the toxins carried by blah 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 blah.
And here's the deal. This book I wrote it like 14, 13 years ago. I drafted this, so I don't remember the details. I can't remember if the colors represent anything. Or if there's like colors that related to their, like I said, they're kind of part of a religious order that eliminates the undead. So I don't know if they're significant, or if I just was like making up crap because it was Nanowrimo and I needed words.
Well, let's just pretend they are significant. It's there. We're editing a book, so they're significant, right? So let's do like, just to tackle that, like, we want that in there, but we don't know how, and we don't want any wusses or passive voice. So you can literally just say the silver hoop earrings worn by the members of the order. Worn by the order.
I was gonna say,
because the order is actually capitalized.
Yeah. I have another. I'm gonna see what you say, but then I have another idea.
Okay. So I'm gonna say the silver hoop earrings worn by the order were, let's say, were is passive voice, but here we might actually need it. What's the word that means like required but not quite required? I
don't
help. Help.
I don't know. I'm only coming up with required.
Let's just say required.
Yeah, we'll just say required.
The silver hoop earrings worn by the order were required. Blue, white, and gold in color. They were used. Oh no, that's also past voice. But let's just think.
Blue.
What?
I remember the name of the deity, which is Sraya, because it's fantasy. So like in the order were required in Saraya's blue, white, and gold.
Okay. Okay. So the silver hoop earrings worn by the order were required in Saraya. Wait.
It's actually Sraya, but it doesn't really matter because this is never becoming a book.
Oh my.
I was just throwing words The deity is now named shit.
Tell me your thoughts on this, Avery, because I am just
I was gonna say the way I would add it in later is to contrast it with something else. So like maybe there's like another sect of the order that uses different colors, and she meets this other person and is like, oh, his earring is green, white, and gold instead of my blue, white, and gold of a whatever rank I am. So instead of later just using it as like exposition, using it to like contrast with something else we see. Does that make sense? But that would be something I just added into a later scene, like I said. Or if it's somebody who's a different rank, be like, oh, his are green, white, and gold. He must be a lieutenant or whatever.
Okay.
So that's how I would work it in later. I would work it in as like put something in that contrasts with it. That's one of my sneaky ways to world build, is be like, oh wow, they're doing this. That's different than how I do it.
Right. So I guess the lesson here is your wusses are probably there because you're stuck in exposition land and you're fucking talking about shit that you probably shouldn't be talking about right now. So that's a red flag. But I wanna be able to tackle this like as it is. And I'm just I don't know. I don't think I know enough about what's going on here to make proper decisions.
I actually think this is fine right now for this draft. the silver hoop earrings worn by the order were required in Sayara's white, blue, white, and gold colors. That works for me now. It's one of those things that later, yeah, you may go in and finesse it more, but for us just getting rid of was's right now, that like you said, that's passive voice.
Were is passive voice, but I think this is one of those opportunities where you can use it
Yeah.
and not have to worry too much about
Like you
it.
said, it's not always
Um,
bad.
Unless you or somebody else in the chat sees a loophole here, because a lot of the times when there is a were, when there is a were or there is a was, sometimes there's another way and it takes a minute to see it.
Yeah.
So I don't see it up front. I might on another read, but that's why we come back to read stuff.
Yeah. And this is the importance of critique partners is,
Yep.
sometimes we're editing things with the two of us and then people in chat will come up and be like, it's this, and we're both like, that's great. So it's that importance of getting like multiple feedback opinions.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tackle this next kind of this whole original sentence was it was worn by all members of the order and it provided immunity from the toxins carried by the walking dead or other unholy creatures. Um
I kind of think that still can't become a zombie just fixes that. But
oh
that's
yeah,
just me.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
no.
just
You're
cut all of
you're
that.
right. So we were just gonna cut all that because
Yep.
we already did the still can't become a zombie stuff, which is show don't tell at its
But
best.
I think
So
even like unfortunately the earring couldn't prevent regular
plain
infection,
old
plain old infection,
right.
which is a little bit of exposition, but a sentence here and there of exposition, you need it.
So I actually like that sentence because because we've kind of in the new version said that the leg is still racked with heat from the infection. So she's worried about becoming a zombie. But I think that this is a good time to say that it can't prevent the infection.
Yeah.
So even though so worried and looking for reassurance, I touched my earring. Good, it's still there. Still can't become a zombie. Um, but it can. Is there a way that we can fit in the bit about it, not preventing infection in there, so that we don't have to break off and talk about it, like
Okay. I'm thinking here. So in the I touched my earring, you right now you have essentially an M dash, but we're in Google Docs. Um, so
yeah,
I
it's an M
touched my
dash.
earring. What if it was a period and then the thought, good, it's still there, can't become a zombie. And then the silver hoop earrings in Sraya's blue, white, and gold dash require or crap, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay. No, okay. I get what you're saying here. The silver hoop earrings worn by the
And then
order.
like an M dash
Um,
explaining what they are.
yep. Are to be in Soraya's. I'm just gonna say Sayara's
Yeah.
blue, white, and gold colors
We're no good.
could
We're no good
go
against.
good against infection.
Yeah, no good against plain old infection or something like that.
And that is more passive voice because of the were. I know.
Well, in this case, wait, worn by we're no good. That one's not passive voice. That one's just were as a verb.
Yep. So I'm
I'm
just
leaving it.
gonna. Okay. So the silver hoop earrings worn by the order, required to be in Soraya's blue, white, and gold colors, were no good against plain old infection.
Yeah. It's kind of a long sentence, but I don't think I have a problem reading it.
Right. And the only problem I'm having right now is the two infections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the first infection to festering wound.
Yeah, I was going to say from the injury or wound was
Yep.
where I was going to go.
Yep. Yep.
And then, because yeah,
So,
last night, what happened is this after the salve was they've got like a first aid kit basically. So she got home to the inn and like slathered it with like a basic healing salve. So I don't actually even know if we need this whole sentence because we know she's already treated it. This last sentence, which says after the salve,
though,
hopefully the wound would be healed soon enough. I honestly don't know if. Once again, I am a brutal word slaughterer, and I would just cut the whole sentence.
sure. Yeah, and just to talk about this sentence separately, after the salve, though, hopefully the wound would be healed soon enough. If we were going to edit this, instead of removing it, probably would just go, uh, probably remove the though,
I would say
or
hopefully the
remove the
salve
hopefully.
would heal it soon enough because that changes the would be healed
Hopefully,
by
yes,
essentially
yes,
because that's changing it from the wound would be healed by the salve to the salve would heal the wound, which is
yes.
the easiest way to fix passive voice. If you do that with all of your passive voice, your writing is going to start sounding very Dick and Jane book. So you
Yeah.
don't want to just like automatically go to every passive voice and go, okay, well, the door was shut loudly and go, he loudly shut the door. You don't want to do that with every single sentence. Of course, loudly is another problem, but you know what I mean. The door was slammed
Remember,
shut.
make
You
that
don't want to say
sentence
he
do two
slammed the door.
things. Yeah,
And
yeah, and plus, if your sentences are doing two things, you probably won't do the Dick and Jane thing.
yeah,
Like if slamming the door and something else is going on simultaneously, that's not going to
yeah.
happen probably.
I'm
So,
just saying you don't want to automatically do that to all of your sentences because it is
oh yeah,
going to
definitely.
make your writing feel very stilted. So it's that thing where it's like artistically, do you keep it? Do you not keep it? And a lot of the times when I do that, it's just it's kind of a loosey goosey. Does it feel like it sounds good? Does it feel satisfying to say? And this is where saying your stuff out loud can help. I hate it. I hate reading my stuff out loud. It's embarrassing for me, but you need to do it.
Um, okay, so the original sentence here, and we're not going to keep it for our final paragraph, but I still wanted to edit it. The original sentence was after the salve, though, hopefully the wound would be healed soon enough. Now, there are two different ways you could do this. You could just say, hopefully the salve would heal the wound soon enough, or if you had a character that had some extra voice, you could be like, no matter, the salve would heal this wound soon enough.
I
You
actually
know,
like that better. It is
um,
a lot voicier. It puts us in the character's head a little more. It's more
yeah,
intimate.
yeah,
So I like
I
that much
agree.
better.
Yeah. So no matter, the salve would heal the wound soon enough. It's also kind of a little cocky. I
Yeah.
like that.
Which the character
So
kind of
a lot can
is.
be done.
She's a
Good.
little bit cocky. She's a little bit worried, but then like I'm fine. I'm kind of a badass.
So let's see how many words our modified paragraph is. 68 down from 106.
Yeah. Well, if we include that, did
So
you highlight the no matter sentence?
I didn't, but I will.
It's still
If I
less.
include if I include that, it is 78.
Yeah. So we cut
So
30 words,
still
give or take
less.
28 words. Um, which
And I will read that now if you'd
yes.
like, unless you would like to read it.
No, you
Okay.
can read it.
Okay, so the morning sun broke, tearing me from sleep. I winced and rolled out of bed, legs still racked with heat from the festering wound. Worried and looking for reassurance, I touched my earring. Good, it's still there. Still can't become a zombie. Unfortunately, the silver hoop earrings worn by the order, required to be in Sayara's blue, white, and gold colors, were no good against plain old infection. No matter, the salve would heal the wound soon enough. Boom. So much better.
It's much cleaner.
It's much voicier
It is
too. I kind of
voicier.
love it. It is. You remove that, the show don't tell stuff, and it just
Excuse me.
becomes very, it starts to have personality. Um, and that's what we want when we're writing, right?
Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty proud about what we did there.
I was really.
I'm gonna be honest, I was fucking worried. I was like, oh my god, I'm sweating here. I don't know what the fuck to
It
do.
was a pretty rough passage, and that's part of the reason I kept it short was because I knew it was going to take some work.
Yeah, yeah, but we did it. We did it, and there's no was's in there. There's not a single was, but there is a were, but
There
it is not passive voice.
is there. Oh, yeah, there isn't
There
a single
is
was.
right
There's
at the
one
end.
were, and that's it. But it's
Yeah.
were as a verb
Uh-huh.
and not were in passive voice, which
Yes.
is a
And
hint at
someone
our
would
next
say,
episode.
"Oh, is it?
It's
I don't even know what
the
we're
next
doing yet."
episode is wasing the wases part 2, which we'll get to at the very
Oh,
end when we're kind of teasing that.
okay.
But we do have so I guess that's kind of it into the questions. So anybody who's in chat, please write your questions now and we'll answer them. But we have our first pre-submitted question.
Oh my god!
I
Thank you.
know.
You're so
I need
cool
like
at
an
writing
air horn, like blah
rules.
blah blah blah. Um,
Bless.
so this question was
Okay.
submitted by listener Oddly, who asked, and we kind of have touched on this a little bit, but I think we can go a little deeper. How do you decide which wases to let stand and when to keep pushing your brain to reword them?
Well, the way I do it is I try to remove it, and then if I can't remove it without getting pissed, I just leave it there.
Like, this is hard. I'm done now.
You know, I sometimes you look at a sentence for so long and you're like, "Fuck you, sentence!" Like I'm leaving you. Like me, like I fine if you want to be there, be there. But I think we talked a lot about just the pentameter and just in general, like how does it sound? Is it does it follow the rules by zombies? You know, that would be how I do it, you know?
Yeah, mine is literally just, does it sound better? Usually does it sound prettier? I'm like, because I pay a lot of attention to, like, everybody has their voice. And some writers tend to be more straightforward with their voice. Some tend to have like a certain slangy quality to their voice that's very like casual and modern. I learned from people who like words, and purple prose is where I came from. So I tend to really like luxuriate in the words and what sounds good. So if it sounds nice and has a good cadence, I'll leave it.
Right, because otherwise, like, okay, so if you have an original sentence like we had here, I cracked open an eye to see that the room was now lit by the rising sun. You know that that doesn't sound good. And that's when you change them. And what we changed it to was the morning sun broke, tearing me from sleep. And that's just so much better, you know? And it's those things, some was's they're fine. But like if it is a crucial moment like that, get rid of them and make it pretty. It's going to take a minute. Like it took us some time. And I feel like I'm pretty good at removing was's and wers and woulds.
I gave
Um
you a good challenge.
yeah, it was very challenging. I'm actually impressed. I was like, oh, this will be easy. No.
Then you read through it and just went, fuck.
Yeah. I passive voice used to be my the thing that the person who edits my books before I give them my beta readers used to kind of pick on me about like, oh, your passive voice is so bad. And then I like really got into myself on it and I learned and I used Autocrit. There are other editing softwares that can help you locate them. But I used Autocrit and I looked at it and I tried to get rid of at least 80% of the ones that I found. And I taught myself in the meantime how it looks to not use them naturally. So now actually I'm pretty good at it. And you'll get good at it too. You just gotta like, you'll learn to spot them. Yeah, I'm rambling.
That's okay. It's good rambling. I like your rambling. I was giving
I do
people a
it in
chance to
vain.
type, and it looks like nobody has any questions.
No one
Ask us
cares.
questions, please. We like you. Ask us things. We don't care what they are. Okay, we do.
I
We do care what they are a little bit.
You know what? While we have a few minutes here, I'm actually gonna pop open Autocrit
Okay.
and see what it says about other words. It might go over like a few minutes, but you know what? I'm fine with that. Because I'm curious what you think about certain other words too, and I know I'm forgetting some here. Let's see. Let's see what words Autocrit flags.
Autocrit is
Okay,
very intense.
it is.
You were lucky
Uh,
enough to get like a cool Nanowrimo deal on it.
oh man, I made out with this thing like a bandit. It's like so expensive,
I
you
I
guys, and
missed it because NaNoWriMo was like right before Christmas shopping season, and they were like, "Do you want this awesome deal? It's like, still not cheap, but you get it like forever." And I was just like, "I don't have that, but I have to buy Christmas presents." So I didn't have it, so I didn't get the cool deal, but I did try it for a few months when I was
I'm gonna.
revising my book right before self-publishing it, and it's got some really cool stuff.
So Yeah, I actually popped this open in the editing window so people can kind of
Oh, let
see
me.
this is what it kind of looks like. Um, when it and actually I put in a random chapter from a second draft of an older book, and I still did really good. There was, it says the 48 was's, that's fine. But it also flags words like wasn't, you've, had, have, were, has. I did pretty good with all of those, it looks like. Just that kind of stuff. That's what it looks like when you use it. I did a good job because I guess I'm pretty fucking good at it.
I love it when it tells you like remove about 15 and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, remove all of these. I've had some crazy ones where it's like remove like 25 of these, please. And it's like, oh
It's like,
no.
okay.
But yeah.
We do
Anyway,
have a
that's my
question.
spiel. Oh, do
Yes, which
we?
is, in your opinion, which is worse, passive voice or filter words?
I think you should answer this one because I don't actually know for sure what a filter word is.
Um, Filter words are the see, saw, heard, felt.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
filter words are worse.
I think so too. Fuck those. I hate those. No.
Yeah,
Like, they
I
make me
use them
so
a
mad.
lot
Like,
in my early drafts, but I am
oh,
brutal about them in revisions.
yeah.
Because they just passive voice can make your writing feel a little long. It feels like it's stretched thin. But filter words puts a barrier between the reader and the character. And I like stories that have a really tight, limited POV. For the most part, there are exceptions. One of them is a book of DC's that I read that played with Omniscient and did some really cool things with it. But usually I prefer to have like a very close perspective on the main character, and all of those filter words, felt, heard, saw, thought, make me feel like I'm watching the story rather than living the story. Whereas passive voice is a prose thing. It just makes the reading a little clunkier.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Get rid of the filter words first. Like, yeah. But yeah. I think
I
that's
think that's it.
that's all I
I think
got to
we're good.
say about
Okay,
that.
so we can do our little conclusion. I have to pull out my cheat
Hmm.
sheet because I have had some alcohol. Okay. Oh, the next part is you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, God.
Do you want me to say it? I've
Uh,
got it in front of me. I can say it.
let's see. Wait. Yes. Oh, me. Yes. Our next episode is August 6th and will be the second half of our Was series. Little footnote, I believe that we stole the wasing the wases thing from the other podcast, Writing Excuses, that Brandon Sanderson hosts. I don't know if he was the first one to do it.
Oh, I
But
didn't know
if you
that.
haven't,
I just knew it showed up in our group chat. I didn't know you guys
yeah,
stole it.
I think it's something that Brandon Sanderson coined a little bit. I could be wrong about that, but if you haven't listened to Writing
Oh.
Excuses, do it. It's an insanely good writing podcast, and you can learn so much. But anyhow, this will be the second half. Next time on August 6th will be the second half of our Was series, and I'm sure Brandon Sanderson won't sue us for
Yeah, sorry,
wasing
I
our
didn't
was.
know. I'm sorry,
No,
Brandon. Please don't sue me.
it's fine. He's a nice guy from what I've heard. I think he's gonna be proud of us. Um and that will be our next one is just on August 6th will be how to strengthen your writing by swapping out the weaker word was for stronger phrasing. Join us at 7:30 Eastern time or check out the audio version afterward.
And you can find everything you need at our website, which is anditswriting.com with the A and D, not the ampersand. You can look us up on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen. Most podcatcher apps are going to catch us. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you left us a rating or review on iTunes. It really helps the algorithm and helps other people find our podcasts on all the different services.
People are downloading our stuff. I'm
They
so
are.
excited.
It's very nice.
Oh my goodness.
People are actually listening to us. That's terrifying and awesome
Wow.
at the same time. So, yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking questions and commenting. We're really excited to have you here, and we will see you all in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.